Okay, welcome back to our final lecture on the cardio, the heart unit. We're going to talk about risk factors and healthy lifestyle. So we're going to finish out heart disease and talk about how we can avoid becoming one of the statistics in the U.S. What should we know about our heart health? Have you heard of Life's Simple 7? So, Life's Simple 7 is something that is defined by the American Heart Association, and it is 7 risk factors that people can improve through lifestyle changes to help achieve ideal cardiovascular health. So we're going to go over each one and talk about the risk factors and how and some suggestions on how to combat them. So blood pressure. Manage blood pressure. High blood pressure is really a major risk factor for heart disease and stroke. So looking at the risk factor even closer, hypertension prevalence by sex and race ethnicity. Um, this is broken down by total, then men and women. And this is uh, this is non-Hispanic white, black, non-Hispanic Asian, and then Hispanic. And then when we look at men and women, we see that people of Black race have a really high incidence of hypertension or high blood pressure, extremely high compared to non-Hispanic whites, uh, Asian, and Hispanics. So that is something to know going into having a major risk factor. That's something to know for sure. So, how can we manage our blood pressure? Uh, you'll see some of these things be repeated over and over again for sure. So hopefully you won't get too bored. Eat smart. Eat a healthy diet of vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and you can read these on the slides. Limit sodium, saturated fats, and added sugars. Move more. Physical activity really helps control blood pressure, actually. The more you exercise, the more your blood pressure comes down. Manage weight. If you're overweight, even a slight weight loss can help reduce blood pressure. So you don't have to lose a whole bunch of weight, even just a little bit. Smoking. Actually, every time you smoke or vape, so it's not just cigarettes, but it's also using a vape pen or use any tobacco products, the nicotine can cause an increase in blood pressure. And sleep. I think this is one of the things that people don't realize is that less than 6 hours and a poor quality of sleep, which I have a really big problem with, is associated with high blood pressure. So lots of things that even little increments can help improve on. Cholesterol. High cholesterol contributes to those plaques that we saw in lots of lots of those cardiovascular diseases, which can clog arteries, lead to heart disease and stroke. When you control your cholesterol, you're giving your arteries the best chance to remain clear of blockages. And looking at the breakdown, we look at this is the dark block is uh, non-Hispanic white. This blue block is non-Hispanic black. Um, this is Asian, and then this lighter green is Hispanic. So for cholesterol purposes, the higher incidence risk factor is actually being Black or Hispanic, and especially for men here. So men have a much higher incidence than women, and then especially Black men and Hispanic men. Uh, so that's something to be aware of. So, how do we control cholesterol? Eating a healthy diet, of course. Um, you'll see over and over again vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, legumes. One of the things in here that it says to limit beyond sugary drinks and foods is processed meats, full fat dairy, eggs, and tropical oils. I think a lot of people think that coconut oil is very healthy, but tropical oils have can raise those cholesterols um, pretty high. So be careful with having a lot of that. So tropical oils, be careful with those. Move more. Physical activity can help with cholesterol, of course. Your fats. So fats is definitely increases your cholesterol levels. So replace saturated fats with unsaturated fats. And of course, smoking lowers that good HDL. Remember, H stands for healthy cholesterol and raises your risk of heart disease. So that's an interesting thing. I don't think people know that it lowers that HDL. And then take medication as directed. If you were directed to take statins for your cholesterol, make sure you take them as directed. Blood sugar. Blood sugar is one of those things that people don't realize has an effect on the heart, but it really does. Most of the food we eat turns into glucose to then make energy for our cells to do that cellular work. Um, and glucose is really just blood sugar. And over time, high levels of blood sugar can damage your heart, as well as your kidneys, eyes, and nerves. And so, some of the risk factors. This one was a little harder to find the data, but older people over the age of 18 diagnosed with diabetes, um, finding out men versus women. I did the ethnicity. Um, People of American Indian or Alaskan Native descent were at really high risk um, for this. And then people of Hispanic or Black background. And then some people of Asian descent or white descent. So those are things to be aware of as you get older and be aware of what you are doing with your blood sugar. So ways to reduce your blood sugar. Of course, eat healthy, eat smart, limit sweetened things like things with added sugars, fatty food, processed meats. Eat better, which is different. Balanced meals with whole grains, proteins, and fruits. Avoid skipping meals so you have those peaks and valleys of blood sugar, and avoid large meals. So have nice balanced portions. Move more. Physical activity helps improve, oh, cholesterol levels. Well, that was a wrong. That was a, but it is going to be very same. Okay, get active. So this was one of their 7. It is not a risk factor. It's just one of their 7 things they suggest. Get active. Living an active lifestyle is one of the most rewarding gifts. They suggest 150 minutes of moderate activity, or 75 minutes of vigorous activity per week for adults. And some of the ways they suggest that is including muscle strengthening, like resistance or weight training at least twice a week. Um, some intensity, like add intensity, like a little bit more distance or a little bit more effort, and definitely sit less, which can be hard when you're taking online classes for sure. So uh, be active, do daily physical activity when you can. Eat better. So this was a common thread in all of those risk factors. They have a lot of suggestions. Enjoy vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, legumes, nuts, plant-based proteins, lean animal proteins, skinless poultry, and fish were their suggestions. Limit sweetened drinks, sodium, processed meats, refined carbohydrates, and avoid trans fat, partially hydrogenated oils, which are found in most commercially baked foods, and fried foods. You really need to get used to reading nutritional labels, and find out what's in your food. And I thought one really good thing, other than looking for their heart healthy check on your food label, which is in a lot of things in the grocery store, learn the salty 6, which are limit the amount of sodium you eat each day, and learn the salty 6, which are the common foods that can be loaded with excess sodium and are bad for your heart. So it doesn't say don't eat them, but just really limit them. Breads and rolls, pizza, sandwiches, cold cuts and cured meats. So that means like like if you go to Subway, like turkey sandwiches, all those meats that they put on them, the salami, the bologna. Soups are very high in sodium. Burritos and tacos, which happen to be the life force around here in Contra Costa, they are very high in sodium. So something to think about and limit. Weight management. A healthy weight, when you shed extra fat and unnecessary pounds, uh, your heart and lungs and blood vessels have to work less to provide yourself with extra oxygen. Uh, the main point of this is calories in versus calories out is really the best way, um, and to manage weight. So don't eat more calories than you spend. And smoking, I know a lot of people know that smoking is not great for you. I don't know that a lot of people link smoking with heart disease. I think a lot of people link it with lungs, but smoking is very bad for your heart, because the heart is linked so much with bringing in that oxygen. And smoking is the most preventable cause of death in the US, and it's linked to about 1/3 of all deaths in heart disease and 90% of lung cancers. So it is definitely one of the most preventable causes of death. I think a lot of people link it to lung cancer, but forget that it's also linked to heart disease, which is the number one killer. Not only cigarettes, but e-cigarettes and tobacco products, all the smoke, vapor, and liquids, it all has it in it. Um, and I do want to say at the very last one, within a year of quitting, your risk of heart disease goes down by half, which I think is a really, really great number. And finally, love your heart. There's so many things to do. Even do one or two of the things, and you can help your heart out a lot. So, have a great rest of the week and love your heart.